I know what you're thinking, how could you possibly make a video on the Mount Gordo ghost in 2025? Everybody and their mother knows about the ghost on top of Mount Gordo. You're right, everybody and their mother does know about the ghost on top of Mount Gordo, but what they don't know is that the Mount Gordo ghost is based on a real-life ghost. A real-life ghost that still roams a mountain looking for her killer. The Mount Gordo ghost isn't just something made up for a video game, it's based on something tragic that actually happened in real life. Now I'm going to explain both stories, firstly of the ghost in GTA 5, and then I'm going to go on to the ghost that it's based on in real life. So if you already know the story of the ghost in GTA 5, I'm going to put a timestamp on the screen. Skip to that time and you can learn exactly what the Mount Gordo ghost is based on in real life. So firstly, the ghost in GTA 5 is the ghost of a 22-year-old woman named Jolene Cranley. Now she was the wife of a familiar man named John Jock Cranley. John Jock Cranley was originally mentioned in Vice City Stories. He was a stuntman and an actor. Now right after the death of his wife Jolene Cranley, he moved back to Vice City, and then a few years later he came back to San Andreas. So in the current time of GTA 5 story mode, he's just moved back to San Andreas. And he now even has his own website where he's running for governor of San Andreas. So he's a very famous and important man.
We've cared about people for far too long. I'm not extending a helping hand. I'm giving you all the finger. Vote for me, Jock Cranley, and help yourselves.
This message paid for by Jock Cranley for governor.
But he has a very dark secret, and his dark secret appears on top of Mount Gordo between the hours of 11 PM and midnight. And his dark secret is the ghost of his wife, Jolene Cranley. She will appear on top of this rock for 2 minutes of our time every single day. That's 1 hour in game and 2 minutes for us. The word Jock will also appear underneath this ghost for 2 minutes every single day, and it's written in blood. And that's not even the scariest part about this ghost. The scariest part is if you stand at the very bottom of the mountain. Now in story mode, at the bottom of Mount Gordo there is a campsite, but in GTA Online they replaced it with one of the facilities. But if you stand in this exact location while the ghost appears for 2 minutes, you can hear her scream. Now there are multiple voice lines for this, but the idea here is we are hearing her final moments. We're hearing her scream as she fell. And that's the story that was told to the public, that Jolene Cranley, the 22-year-old woman that appears as a ghost, fell off of Mount Gordo and died. But the truth is, Jolene didn't accidentally fall to her death, she was pushed. Pushed by her husband, John Jock Cranley. And that is why the word Jock is written in blood underneath the ghost for 2 minutes every single day. She's telling us that her husband killed her. Now you might wonder, why is she telling us this? She's telling us this because the world believes that she fell to her death. That's the story that John Jock Cranley is telling the world. While he's running for governor of San Andreas, he covered up the fact that he killed his wife by saying she fell to her death. Now that is it. That is the mystery of the Mount Gordo ghost. But the most important part of this that you need to remember for the next story is the truth. That simple word, truth. She wants the truth of her death to be known to the public. She wants her killer to be brought to justice. Now I said earlier that the Mount Gordo ghost is actually based on a ghost in real life. And that's the truth. It actually is. And it is a tragic story. Now the real life ghost story comes from a small town named Gordon in Pennsylvania. Now this town called Gordon is right next to a mountain called Gordon Mountain, and the ghost is said to be seen along the old Gordon Mountain Road. So for clarity reasons, this mountain has a few names. The locals know it by the Gordon Mountain or the Broad Mountain. The ghost is also known as the Gordon Mountain Ghost or the Broad Mountain Ghost, so regardless of which name you see on screen, we're talking about the same mountain. Now firstly, you can already see why Mount Gordo is called Mount Gordo, because it's based on Gordon Mountain. Gordo, Gordon, they literally just removed the N. Very creative, Rockstar. Now the location of this ghost is very easy to mix up because there is a new road next to the old road. That's why it's called the Old Mountain Road. And the ghost only appears on the Old Mountain Road because this is a very old legend. Now in 1925, the body of a woman in her early 20s was found in the bushes along the Gordon Mountain Road, which we now know as the Old Gordon Mountain Road. Now her body was found by a bunch of flower pickers and it wasn't a very nice sight. The report said that this woman was badly beaten and set on fire. From the amount of her blood found at the location, it seems like she was kidnapped and brought to this mountain road where she was then killed. So she wasn't just dumped there, she actually died there. Now, all of her blood was found under the leaves below her, so that explains where Rockstar got the idea to write the name Jock in blood below the ghost in GTA 5. Now, the craziest part about this woman who was kidnapped and murdered on Gordon Mountain is that they couldn't find any evidence. They never found out who killed her. There was no evidence from the killer or killers. They don't even know how many people killed her. And the most tragic part about her story is they couldn't even identify who she was. They never actually found out who this woman was. They narrowed down her age to between 20 and 24. A few articles said that she was between 16 and 20, but it seems like 20 to 24 was more accurate. They actually wrongly identified her as multiple other women that went missing in the area over the next couple of months. They only realized that they were wrong about her identity when those women appeared safe. So multiple times they were stumped. They had no idea who this young woman was. One of the only details they actually had was a car that was spotted in the area by multiple locals. They reported a small dark-colored coupe making a number of trips up the mountain. It was believed that that vehicle was making multiple trips for engine oil. And it was also believed that she was in the car with her murderer-murderers, whoever they were. And this is where her story gets a little bit weird, so warning for this in advance. The girl was still unidentified and her body was set to be cremated, so they removed her head and they stored it in a jar of chemicals in hopes for one day being able to identify her. And that day still hasn't come. They still have no idea who she was or who her murderers were. Crazy, but this was in 1925, and even if they did figure out who killed her, they won't be brought to justice because they themselves would be dead now in 2025 anyway. But shortly after her murder, rumors began to circulate that the road was haunted. This is where it gets really interesting, because around the time of her death, a few weeks after, there were multiple reports of seeing a woman wandering around the nearby woods. Some people actually reported seeing her in the woods, and other people reported hearing her. The multiple reports of hearing her claimed that they heard a woman scream for help. And by now, in 2025, there are many different stories about encounters with this ghost along the old mountain road. The most popular legends are from people claiming that their vehicles randomly stall while going down the old mountain road. They then claim that the ghost girl will appear and look through the car windows as if she's searching for her killer. She'll then disappear and you'll be able to continue driving on your journey. Other reports have claimed to see the ghost girl sitting on a stone as they drove by. And other reports have once again claimed to hear screaming as they were driving by. And then the last report of seeing this ghost claimed that they spotted her standing by a nearby lake. Now, I don't know if you noticed this while I was telling you the story of the Mount Gordo ghost, but the Mount Gordo ghost seems to be a mixture of all of these legends. Rockstar seem to have combined all of these sightings into one. Now, firstly, like I said earlier, the blood under the leaves seems to be where they got the idea to write Jock in blood on the rock. The sighting of spotting this woman sitting on a rock as they were driving by is also related to that. The ghost in GTA 5 hovers above a rock that has the name Jock written in blood. Now, that is obviously a combination of both of those sightings. Now, the reports of hearing the woman screaming is obviously where Rockstar got the idea to hear Jolene scream as she falls off the mountain. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this about Mount Gordo, but there is a small lake hidden at the very top. I always thought that this was random and out of place, but when you look at the sighting of somebody seeing this woman next to a lake, I think it makes sense why this small lake exists. And the most important legend of all is the one about the cars stalling and the ghost appearing, checking cars for her killer. Now, remember I said earlier about the Mount Gordo ghost, the word truth is important. The real-life Gordon Mountain ghost is searching for the truth. She's searching for her killer or killers because the world has no idea who they are. And that's why she's a ghost on the mountain, because she has an aim and she can't let go of it until she's found them. Or at least, that's how the story goes. But that's the same thing for the Mount Gordo ghost. She appears every single day and writes the name Jock in blood below her, because she wants the world to know that she was killed by her husband. She didn't accidentally fall like the world believes. She was killed. She wants justice. Both ghosts want justice. And that's why the Mount Gordo ghost is actually brilliant, and so many people overlook it as just a ghost in a video game, when it's so much more than that. It tells the tragic story of a woman who was killed and still searches for her killers to this day. It keeps her tragic story alive. So that is the real life story behind the Mount Gordo ghost. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. If you did, drop a like, subscribe while you're there, and I'll see you in the next video.